Carl Cricco, Chief Executive Officer, K9s For Warriors.
What inspired you to get involved with K9s For Warriors?
Um, you know, uh, it really started for me, my journey here. If I were to look back on September 11th, 2001, I was a NYU student living just a few blocks away from the towers that morning, and won't get into details, but had a horrible day, just like most all Americans. And I just happened to be, on the ground that day, and really avoided that day like the plague for years. I didn't want to talk about it, didn't want to see it on TV, didn't, avoided conversations where it came up. And then later on in my career, I had a kind of a God moment where I was presented with the opportunity to run marketing for the 9/11 Memorial and Museum. And that was my first entry into nonprofits. I saw it as an opportunity to help myself heal, and kind of confront this thing I've been avoiding for so long. And I really got a tremendous amount out of it. It was incredibly rewarding, to help folks engage with something tough. And then decided that, this in 9/11 related nonprofit work is really something that charges me. When K9s For Warriors was looking for a new chief marketing officer, I took the opportunity to take it, because I saw it as a continuation of this work where, at 9/11, I was helping folks come to terms with that day and help folks heal and learn. And at K9s, I'm actually helping the men and women who raised their hands after that day, to heal from their psychic wounds of war. So it's very much rooted in that day in terms of how I got here. I think if I wasn't down there that day, I wouldn't be here right now. It just kind of impacted the flow of my life.
Can you tell me a little bit about K9s For Warriors?
Of course. So we were founded in 2011. Sherry Duvall was the founder. She had a son who came back from Iraq and just wasn't the same son that left. And he actually worked in with canines overseas. And when he came back, she realized he was really only himself when he was with his dog. And she realized that there was something special with this canine human bond that could actually help veterans with severe PTSD, like her son. So she, luckily for all of us, she didn't just say, okay, I'm going to build this thing for my son and help my son out by creating a service dog for him, and then I'm going to be done. She realized that she needed to give this thing away. So she started K9s For Warriors in her garage, and had the idea of rescuing dogs, training them to become service dogs for military veterans with severe PTSD. And it just exploded. 12 years later, we're the largest organization doing it in the country. We have two campuses here in Florida, two in Texas. We've served almost 1,000 warriors at this point. We've saved over 2,000 dogs. So it's had tremendous impact. And just to give you a sense of how the program works, we train the dog for about 6 to 8 months to become a service dog. About half of the dogs don't make it through the program, right? Those dogs that don't make it and graduate as service dogs, we find a forever homes for. We adopt out. We don't bring them back to shelters. And the veteran comes here. We have monthly classes where we have about 12 folks come to our campus in Florida, about 5 in Texas. And they go through a 3-week residential program where they're on site. We're feeding, housing, taking care of these individuals for 3 weeks, while they learn how to utilize their dog. Their dog is completely trained. There's no need, the warrior's not training the dog. We're really training the warrior how to utilize that dog. And obviously, more importantly than anything, bond with that dog. At the end of that 3-week program, they leave, they graduate, and we're consistently in their life until they tell us not to be. So, we help them out even when, after they leave, and there's no cost to the veteran whatsoever.
How important is that relationship to the veteran for their not only mental health, but confidence levels?
Incredibly important. And it's not just emotional support. I think that's something that, is important to note. Like, emotional support animals are great, but that's not what we do, right? We train service dogs, and service dogs perform tasks. And we've done a lot of studies that actually, when you get into this world, right, you start looking for the VA to support you. They say, okay, it sounds good, but show us some hard data. So we got hard data. We had Purdue University do a study. They've done a number of studies since then, but I'll mention one where they tested cortisol levels in the saliva of veterans with emotional support animals and veterans with service dogs. And both groups have veterans with PTSD. And what they found, when cortisol levels indicate levels of anxiety and depression. And what they found was those with service dogs have anxiety and depression levels that are on par with the normal population. And those with emotional support animals are way above the norm. So, there's scientific data that really illustrates the impact of service dogs on veterans with PTSD for the better. So I'd say it's incredibly important. And at a bare minimum, outside of scientific evidence, the data we see every day anecdotally of people just living fuller lives after they leave here, it allows these veterans to get out of the house. One of the key issues for folks with PTSD is that they isolate. They don't like leaving their house. They don't want to deal. They're scared, and the dog kind of gets them back in the world.
With your years at K9s For Warriors, have you seen the stigma of talking about veteran suicide prevention lessening?
Yeah, it has. I mean, PTSD wasn't even something that they really recognized until what, 10, 15 years ago. So in a short amount of time, it's gone from not really recognizing PTSD to recognizing it to now looking at other modalities that could potentially help with the treatment of PTSD. That's not just talk therapy and pills, right? But things like what we do, other alternatives that I think are worth exploring.
Can you tell me some of the stories you've heard or seen with the relationship with service dogs and the veteran?
Sure. I mean, it's every month we have new classes, new stories. I mean, just the other class, we had a gentleman come here that wasn't engaging with his classmates, and we were worried about him. He was very much isolating and not partaking, which is not super uncommon, but it's usually an indication that maybe this individual is not going to make it through the class, which is a bummer. And after getting paired with their dog and going through a couple days with that dog, the bond just became incredible. And at the end of the 3-week program, the gentleman asked if he could work at K9s For Warriors. So, he really got a lot from this program. And I think that, one of the, anecdotally, there's so many stories. One example is a gentleman who came through the program 3 years ago, was in a really bad state, PTSD. He went to Iraq, came back, was in law enforcement. He kind of got the double whammy of PTSD from both jobs, and lost like a lot of his life, lost his relationship with his wife, lost his relationship with his children, was really isolating and not partaking in his world, his social environment, etc., and was thinking about committing suicide. I mean, that's where this leads. That's what we're fighting. And after coming to the program, he's just living a full life, complete relationship with his ex-wife. He's got remarried. He has his relationship with his children is incredible. He's present. He's there. And the dog was a critical bridge to get him back there. And we see that over and over and over again. And it is remarkable. I think that, we could do all the studies in the world that, test cortisol levels, etc. But there's something profound in the canine human bond that we're just tapping into that really helps folks with PTSD.
What are some of the things that motivate you?
Seeing people get better. I mean, seeing people transform, seeing somebody who comes here day one and is like, what the hell is this dog thing? Where am I? This is bizarre. I don't know if this is for me. Because frankly, like I relate. I mean, I'm very routine. I'm a very kind of boring guy. I want to do the same thing every day. And you're gonna put me in a new place, surrounded by new people. And then at the end of that 3-week program, they just have a lightness about them that they didn't have on day one. And that motivates me. tremendously to see that transformation because let's not forget veterans put service over self. They're the people that raised their hands and said, okay, I'm gonna put myself in harm's way. So they've done a lot and they deserve a lot, and a lot of them come back here and they need more than what they're getting. So I get a lot from it.
How does it feel to see that all your hard work is making an impact?
It feels great. I mean, to be frank, it's a lot of hard work. I mean, training these dogs is not easy. It's a massive operation. We have 150 kennels here in Florida. We have another 30 in Texas, and it's a lot of operational management and in terms of training, cleanliness, enrichment for the dogs. It's a massive operation, and it's a lot of people who are really dedicated. I'm just one person of many. We have 200 people here working every day to make this happen. So it's very rewarding to see the impact, but it's also, this amount of work should have, and I'm not surprised that the impact is there because we have a lot of really dedicated people making good decisions every day.
Where do you want to see the mission, say, in the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, we will have our 1,000th warrior graduate in early next year, Q1. So that's 1,000 warriors since 2011. What I'd love is to hit a second 1,000 in 4 years. How do we do that? How do we expand to the point where we're hitting those numbers and having that impact? Because the word around the veteran community is out there. People are starting to learn and have learned since our inception that the service dogs is a really useful tool. So the demand is not decreasing. If it's increasing pretty dramatically, we're just trying to keep up.
How can people reach out and learn more?
So K9s For Warriors.org. That's the letter K, number 9, S4Warriors.org is the best way to get in touch with us, learn more. If you're a warrior who is curious about this program after watching this podcast, there's an application button right at the top. If you're somebody who wants to volunteer and you live in Florida and Texas, there's information there. If you'd like to support via donation, all that is on the website. And the most important thing that I think is on the website are a lot of warrior stories. A lot of great content of the narrative that we see regularly of hope through this program.